A Montezuma County inventory of historical routes across private and public lands has identified nearly 140 rights of way, including dozens in the Canyons of the Ancients monument. But does that mean the public will have access to them all? That depends. You're watching the Local News Network, brought to you by Kazim Motors in Cortez and the Overlook at Edgemont Highlands. I'm Wendy Graham-Settle. Montezuma County wants to ensure that federal agencies include the county in any land management decisions that affect historical public rights of way. And that could mean more public access to federal public lands. In a letter sent December 29 to the Bureau of Land Management's Tres Rios Field Office and the Dolores Ranger District on the San Juan National Forest, the Montezuma County Commissioners asserted that historical routes remain public rights of way, whether they're on private or public lands. Last year, the county inventoried and accepted 138 historical routes as public rights of way under the county's road management plan. Many of those routes currently are managed by the Forest Service and the BLM, but that doesn't mean those routes will automatically be open to public travel. Complex legal questions over which agency has management control, whether the federal government or the county, most likely will have to be adjudicated in federal court. In the meantime, the inventory opens a window on the historical pathways that have been used over time to haul supplies to mining camps, deliver mail to isolated communities, or move cattle from summer range to winter pasture.
This whole process really kind of conforms to the National Landscape Conservation System Act. Well, one of the purposes of that act was to identify and inventory historic traces of pathways or historic routes. And so in essence, that's exactly what we've done here. Not all of these roads are open to the public. Some are already open. It's not that all these roads were suggested to be closed. This is simply an inventory of the ones that we think have some historic significance.
The county bases its assertions on Revised Statute 2477, a federal law passed in 1866 that established regulations for homesteading and road construction across public lands to encourage settlement. It was repealed in 1976 under the Federal Land Management and Policy Act that gave the federal government control over historical travel routes on federal lands. Montezuma County claims in its letter that public rights of way are any routes regularly traveled, whether by foot, horse, wagon, or vehicle, and if they existed before 1976, they should still be open to the public.
As we can see, some of them are ones that most people are going to recognize. Bear Creek, for example, the Colorado Trail, for example, Ryman Creek, Scotch Creek. So these are all trails that most of us in the area recognize as being very, very old trails. Most of us probably don't realize they're as old as they are, or the significance. Bear Creek Trail, for example, was a primary connector between the mining district up around Kennebec Pass and the Rico district. And so at the time, since no roads really existed, pack trail that's how you got supplies to and from the different regions. We've got photographs of a pack train running down that trail. Supposedly, it looks like it's loaded with barrels, and supposedly it was a load of whiskey that they were taking.
Dietrich says the inventory and the letter are an effort to ensure that federal agencies include the county on decisions that impact access to public lands over historical routes identified in the inventory. For example, a track once open to motorcycles on Bear Creek is now closed to motorized vehicles, a move that many county residents opposed. In the Canyons of the Ancient Monument, Dietrich suggested that the government could improve historical routes rather than build new roads to increase public access to remote areas. And in some cases, Dietrich said the county also could assert jurisdiction over historical rights of way on private lands where landowners prohibit monument access now.
So it's really primarily maintaining what access we have. If we have a situation where access is going to be locked off, yet we've had that access for all those years, then it's important to maintain that access. But in terms of really trying to reach out and establish new areas, new economic development, that's really not so much the factor as it is just kind of maintaining what we've already got.
To learn more about the inventory, visit the county's website at montezumacounty.org. Thanks for watching this edition of the Local News Network. Stay in touch and get the latest local news on Instagram and Twitter. I'm Wendy Graham Settle.